you very much. Let's move to our next category. Who would like to read that for us? Jean, thank you.
Age discrimination in today's workforce. We have a multi-generation workforce today. We are experiencing people not exiting the workforce as expected. Let's now speak to the realities of age discrimination and what can be done.
So, the workforce looks different, and it will continue to look different for the coming years. I mean, it's always going to be evolving and changing. We're seeing now a much more mature workforce. And what that is, perhaps some age discrimination. And so this is a very, when I polled the panelists about which category would be your top questions to ask, unanimously they all want to answer this question. Mm-hmm. So huge, huge energy around this question. So I'm sure that it's representative perhaps what we're experiencing probably from the audience perspective as well. So I want to pose this question to our panelists, and I'm just going to open it to whoever wants to speak first. Let's just start down here, and then we'll go down.
Sure.
And the question is, how can I market myself as an older employee and still avoid age discrimination?
You can't. That's the easy answer. But how I approached it is, because I am an older worker, I think there are a number of things to do. I am competing, as we were talking a little bit ago, with a whole lot of people, and a lot of folks that are considerably younger than I am. So what I've had to do is to make sure that I'm not old, that I'm current, that I'm as up to date as I possibly can be, that I've gone to all the social media stuff. I have Twitter, I have Facebook, I have over 600 connections on LinkedIn. You know, I'm just very, very visible. And so I think that's one of the big keys with the older worker is to don't let your mind trick you into that fact that you're older, but rather you need to continue to compete and drive and be competitive. There was a fellow at a thing I went to recently. We were chatting, and he says, "Oh, I don't have a Facebook page because I think it's just stupid." You know, so you have to. And Philip said this before. You have to emphasize your ability to adapt to rapid change. That's a huge key.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to tag on what Peter's saying. You can't really pick up the experience that the younger workforce doesn't have the experience. That's just something you can't pick up in a weekend or Google that. And I think the best example of that is something I've seen recently. One of our trainers is in his late 50s or early 60s. I've never had enough barroom time with him to actually ask. But he, I guess about a year and a half ago, you could definitely tell thoughts of, well, this is, I'm rounding the final bin here, started to kind of cross his mind. And some of our older trainers, and by older, I mean, in the 50s, like not really older, just starting to be categorized that way. There's been some resistance to a lot of the new technology, social media, things like that. This one guy, Jeff, has just recently decided to do a CPLP, and when I tell you, I've got nothing on Jeff now. We're in the process of looking at a couple different LMS systems right now, and he is now capable of having discussions about SCORM. The fact that he can take his decades of training experience and now combine that in a SCORM discussion makes him able to not go, oh yeah, it's a great survey tool. He can now go, oh yeah, SCORM, so we can wrap level 3 evaluation around that. And that makes all the difference in the world. And he can learn this technology stuff. I mean, training is good training. It's a very short uptake for him. Just being conversant is all he needs.
Well, I mean, the same marketing technique we would recommend for an aging audience, what we would probably call more seasoned professional versus an early professional. The strategy is the same in that know what your professional DNA, your drive, your niche, and your accomplishments are, and don't hide it. I mean, you can try and hide, people put on their resume maybe only the last 15 years, but that's only going to take you so far into an interview, and then it's, be transparent about it, and the fact that there's a lot of pluses to a seasoned worker is something to play up, that their companies are seeing that the lower turnover rates from more older workers. They have diversity programs that they do need to meet, so there's benefits to companies hiring older workers or trying to mirror their customers, and so you want to look for those organizations that do want to hire a seasoned worker for the reasons that benefit their organizations, and just avoid even being interested really in companies that do discriminate, because you get to choose where you work as well, is to find through research. You can find companies that have that population and that like to hire in the older age brackets. So
Thank you.
2 cents.
I'm an old fart. I'm 66, going to be 67, and up until the middle of last year, I was seeing if I can find a job somewhere. And I had 2 chances, and only in America do they mean the same. That was fat and slim. And that's what made me decide that right then and there, forget it, I'm going to get back into consulting. I can do that really, really well, and I've got connections. Did I feel like I was being discriminated against? The answer is certainly yes. Did I get interviews? Absolutely. I have a really nice resume. But did I make it past the first or second interview? No, I did not. Could I do everything that they wanted me to do? Easily. You're talking about putting in LMSs. I put in about 4 or 5 LMSs in my time. You name it, I could probably do it or have done it. And people won't hire me. I'm too old. Okay, yes, sir.
Can I ask questions now? Or?
We're going to ask questions at the end, but you know what? We're good on time, so go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, do you think it's actually age discrimination, or do you think it might be like you're going to cost too much?
Actually, at that point in time, I wasn't going to cost any more than any one of you was going to cost me.
Okay.
Because I don't need to make a lot of money at my point in my career. If somebody's going to pay me $60,000 a year, I'm fat, dumb, and happy.
Yes, and that's very true, and that's but they can't read your mind and know that. And so I'm in a situation where I've got about 11 years experience as an instructional designer, and I see a lot of jobs that I look at, and it's like they specifically say they want a BA. They don't want an MA.
Oh.
And the read-through for me is they want to pay somebody $45,000, not $70,000. And so I think that there's some of that out there too.
I want to tell one story, man, that has to do with that, and it'll only take a second. I was hiring a graduate from the program at San Diego State, and I asked him over to my house to be interviewed. We were working for a company up in Irvine. So I asked him over to my house to be interviewed, and I asked him, I said, well, how much do you want to make? And he just finished his master's degree, and he said, I want to pay at least $35,000. And I told him I was going to pay him $35,000. What do you think, it's crazy? I'm not going to pay you $35,000. And he looked at me like, well, why not? And I said, because your talents and skills are worth 60. Would you take 60? And so it kind of works the other way around.
And I think that's great. Do you think most employers are like that?
I think if an employer is truly looking for a skilled instructional designer that can talk about what they bring to the table, and in terms of ROI, what have I done that has delivered ROI, then they'll pay you. And if you can't talk about that, they're not really too terribly interested.
Okay, so I want to ask a follow-on question to this. So we see discrimination in terms, we spoke about it mostly in terms of the more mature workforce. What about those entering the workforce? Can any of you speak to that? Because we have a varied audience here, so I want to reach out to our varied audience. What about discrimination? I want to go maybe perhaps to Kim on this one. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we have younger people entering the workforce that perhaps may be discriminated against for various reasons as well. What's your experience and what do you recommend for that?
I work with a lot of recent grads coming out of school now, and I'm working in the same premise as what's your professional DNA, because They have projects that they've worked on, they have jobs that they've been a part of, and being able to showcase their value is still the same marketing technique. And I don't think it's as necessarily as much an age discrimination as just showing that you're capable of doing the job and having the professional presentation that the rest of the workforce has had some years on them to create. So so I guess it's the same advice, is to just know you know who you are, and we work on that together, and what do they want to do, and how are they going to bring value to an organization. Yeah, I guess that's it.
So it sounds like, what I'm hearing is that whether we're younger or whether we're more mature, each have their benefits. It's understanding what the organization's needs are and being able to position our benefits to the needs of the organization. It goes back to the ROI. So knowing the organization, doing the research, what their needs are, and then positioning ourselves and those benefits that we bring to the table, and being able to say that and sell that. Yeah, Kathleen, I'll start your hand first.
It seems like there's a culture change. There's a lot of murmuring about the younger people who want work to be part of their life and not to be their life, and they know that they're going to jump around from job to job. So if you have an older person, so in a way, the younger folks are sort of at a disadvantage if the hiring folks are a more mature audience who still sort of have that mentality of you're loyal to the company, but once that population gets out and there's younger people making the decisions, they're going to go, yeah, that's how I am, and that's cool. Come work for a couple of years and then go somewhere else. So I think there's sort of a tide that's going to be changing in the next few years, where the culture of what work is and how people integrate that into the rest of their lives.
I think that what we're risking is the loyalty that we've seen the workforce for so long is going to be exiting with that generation that's exiting, and then there's a gap, and so we go straight to the millennials, and so organizations are going to have to keep their talent, to keep their knowledge resources internally, are going to begin to shift to how can I keep my people? How can I keep my talent? How can I keep my organizational knowledge intact and here before it goes to competition? So there's going to begin to be a shift. There will be a shift, and so it's understanding and knowing ahead of time, but preparing ourselves, position ourselves to sell ourselves to what the needs of the organization are as they begin to evolve. So I want to go ahead and move on to the next question. Is that okay? I know you had a question.
I actually feel really stupid, but I don't know what you mean by ROI.
Okay, no problem. Return on investment. So in other words, return on investment. Who wants to help me define ROI? Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
So your company who's hired you to be an instructional designer is going to spend a certain amount of money on your training program, including like your salary, equipment, maybe trainers, maybe e-learning systems, maybe IT support. For that money that they're spending, what benefit are they getting from the people who take the training?
So we need to be able to quantify in terms of dollars, what's the return on investment, the impact to the organization that training is going to be able to produce. So we have to be able to know, understand, and quantify for the organization the impact to performance, the impact to quality, the impact to everything that this is going to have a domino effect on the organization in terms of quantifiable dollars, or the organization has some strategic goals. We can position it in terms of the strategic goals of the organization, of being able to share how this focuses on those goals for the organization as well, and so in terms of that too. So it's being able to show our value in terms of what's important to the organization. It goes back to speaking the language of the executive level, which is what they look at the bottom line. How is this helping my bottom line? How many of you have heard of WIFM? What's in it for me? That's what the executive level wants to know. That's what our managers, directors want to know. What's in it for me? What's in it for the organization if we invest in this training?